Hello traders, and welcome to a video version of the Alpha Drop. This is going to be a very straightforward episode today on ease of movement in order flow using the website MobCharts. So the first thing I want you to do before we jump in is to look at these 3 points right here. So the first one is the filter that I like, 10 to 25%. What I'm talking about is this right here, the quantity filter, which is at about 10% right here. It's up to you, but I've found best results for looking at this kind of type of order flow with those settings. Second, liquidity pockets and heavy order activity. Very simple, actually. A liquidity pocket is just where there's not a lot of limit orders. So like right here, where my cursor is, there's just nothing going on there. Or like right, here, there's not a lot going on. Cough, cough, maybe that's why price did that. Right there. And here there's just not much limit order activity. Now, heavy order activity is very straightforward, I would say. A heavy order activity would be something like here, or something like here, more especially when there's a bunch of large limit orders all really clustered around the same area. So if price heads toward these liquidity pockets that I just explained, and away from large limit orders, that's pretty typical, and that's what you're going to see on most coins. And if you see that historically that's been happening, typically it does continue to happen in the future. If you see that a altcoin doesn't really respect limit orders though, and just kind of goes wherever it wants, then either A, that coin might be very correlated to other coins such as Bitcoin, and that's why it's making those moves, or B, the order flow that you're looking at isn't really deciding the price of it. It could be something else like the news or some blockchain data. Okay, so now that you have the 3 steps right here, let's go into some specific examples so that you can completely understand this. We're going to start with Bitcoin though, because, what else will we start with? So I want you to look right here. We're going to start with this dump right here. So at this point, there were a lot more limit orders down here. Price did end up going below it. But at this very point, this is very extreme. You can see there's absolutely no limit sell orders anywhere close. This is what you can see a lot of the time when there's a very high volatility move. A lot of people don't know the reason why price will reverse. This is part of the reason, because of liquidity pocket. Even if I lower the filter, do you guys see there's still nothing here? And I lowered the filter to even lower, and even down here to the minimum, there's just no limit sell orders anywhere. That's typically a sign that price is going to fill that pocket, that price is going to, rise. So if you see a very high volatility move and you're curious if price will reverse, especially if you're trading something like Ascendex easy options or digital options, this is a very good sign. Heavy bidding right here, and then there's just nothing going on here, so price fills the pocket and goes higher. Now let's look at this. What's beautiful about this example that I pulled up is that the exact opposite happened. Price does fill a fair amount of limit orders, but after it fills these limit orders, you can see there's just no bids. There's no bids anywhere here. So with this type of move, what I will say is the strongest sign you are going to get is high volatility. I've found that this system of looking for ease of movement really mostly just works when the market's very volatile. When the market has a lot of volatility like does this, that's when you want to look at this kind of system of looking for where is price likely to move next. Or like this, high volatility to the upside, a few $100s. Where is price likely to move next? Well, what's going to be the easiest move in this period of high volatility? So I didn't put that in the agenda, but you do need a period of high volatility because that's where the system tends to work much better and much faster too. So price does fill that, and you can see there's just no bids. If I lower the filter to 0, meaning every limit order shown, there's just no limit buy orders anywhere close to here. But there's plenty of sells. Price goes down. You can see that right there. And then the selling actually continues here, and price kind of struggles to go higher until later it does. So that's what you need to look for. You need to wait for a time of very high volatility. And then after you find that time of, well, right here there's just not a lot of volatility, but when you find a time of very high volatility, that's when you can look for ease of movement. Like this is another beautiful example right here. What do we see? A bunch of volatility, a burst of volatility, and my filter's at 0 here, and there's just no bids. There's just all these offers and no bids. So even if you had shorted around here, you probably would have still made money, or at least been break even. And if you had shorted anywhere around here, you would have almost guaranteed to have made money if you were a scalper. instead of a swing trader. So that's really what we're looking for, high volatility, and then we're looking for that kind of complete lack of liquidity on the other side. Now I want to show you guys Binance BNB. So two things I want to show you, and they're similar, but one of them is kind of interesting. So my filter is set at about 10%, as you can see right here. Let's keep this a little bit more just to see the very large orders. I'll do here. But if we look at this right here, usually you want to look during points of high volatility, but you can see price fell off a lot. There's just not that many sell orders. There's actually virtually no sell orders here. At this exact point in time, there was no, let's put this to a minimum filter. There's just no large sell orders, only a few $100,000 worth. That's just not a lot of money in BNB. If I put the filter just 2 ticks over to about the 10%, there's just nothing here. So that's really what, caused potentially price to rise. Besides, of course, Bitcoin did rise, which BNB will rise, but Bitcoin does. Okay, now the even better example. So I'm going to put this filter to here. Again, a lot of offering, a lot of selling, a lot of limit sell orders, but really just not any bids. And you can see that right at this point in time, if you're a very short-term trader on BNB, yeah, there just wasn't really much holding BNB back. There were all these sell orders. There was a new sell order that was placed here. There were a lot of selling that was absorbed, as you can see right here. And more importantly, these static sell orders just remained. So that, with the fact that just not many bids were really here, this is very sporadic and very weak. There's a 260K bid that just kind of floated around, but it didn't really do much. It wasn't as strong as something like this. So that's really what you need to look out for. High volatility, ease of movement. If I put the quantity filter to here, it's a little bit tougher to see, but at a filter of 0, you can see that there's a lot more selling, a lot more potential sellers than potential buyers. However, like I did show here, I typically like to put this not at 0 because it's a little too much information. I think around here is a good sweet spot, especially like right there. You kind of get the best of both worlds, and you can see that the sellers are clearly in control in this period of high volatility. Now, this is typically a 1-minute thing because you might say, well, why am I looking at 1-minute data? Well, the issue with using a higher time frame, guys, is if you use a higher time frame, it's not properly showing order flow. If an order is placed during a 4-hour window and then it's canceled 1 minute before the 4-hour candle, that order might not ever even show. Okay? Because this is really only going to show at close prices. So the reason I use 1 minute so often for order flow is I can see every single change in limit order activity, whereas on the 4-hour, it's just very difficult. You're going to see changes, but they're going to be very slow. And if you want to, be the fastest, you got to use the lowest latency, which is lowest granularity, which is the 1 minute. So that's the reason why I prefer to use very low time frames when it comes to trading order flow. Now let's go to an altcoin that I think is a very smooth, very smooth, easy example to understand. Probably the best illustration of this point. So let's go look at what's going on here. This happened twice, but this is a very volatile coin right now. I don't know how to pronounce it, but UNFI. A lot of sell orders were placed here. You can see right there. Just ask yourself, after this little rise, when all these sell orders were placed, is price going to have an easier time attacking this? Or is it going to have an easier time just going lower? You can play around with the filter to just see, but if you can look right there, there's just no bids here. This is a really scary sign for the coin and a beautiful time to short. There's just no one buying. Look. So remember, green is bids and red is offers or limit sell orders. There's just no buys here. So after this volatile move, price fills it, goes right down, and goes from about a 9.7 down to like an 8.7. That's a very large drop, and you can just see there's just not any buyers here. So let's go to when price began to flirt with the level higher. I'm trying to get the scale right. So price did begin to fill a little bit of this, but this is probably the best example that you're going to see during this entire episode. Because what I saw when I saw this live was just a complete lack of any bids. So if we put on the 10% filter that I really like, there's nothing. I mean, you'd have to reduce the filter down to here, and the largest bid was like 150K. That's nothing. Look how many sells there are up here versus like one bid of 150K. There are $10 million worth, almost $10 million worth of selling right here, limit sells. There's like 150 grand, 250 grand worth of buying. needless to say, I think you probably know where this what happened here. Just way too much. What's it called? Heavy order activity at higher prices. There is just a complete liquidity pocket here. There's just nothing happening at these price points, so price fell naturally. Because after a volatile up move, price really kind of has to. It's just too much effort to go higher, and it's just too easy to go lower. So price kind of takes the easier route. If you continue looking at this order flow, it did recently happen again. You can see that there's a bunch of limit sell orders here, and price is really struggling to go higher. So with that being said, again, you want to play with that filter, just kind of like look around. But if you can kind of see it here. There's just not much going on right down here. So to recap how you are going to use this, when you're looking for ease of movement, you are looking for high volatility. Slow moves can be a little bit tougher to predict, but when you see a very volatile up move like that, very violent, like this was maybe like a 20% move or a 15-20% move upward, this is when you need to look at limit order activity and to start playing around with the filter. There's just no limit orders lower. This is a great sign to short. You can even do this on something like Bitcoin, where we had that beautiful example of the double hit of liquidity. You want to play with that filter a little bit, make it go like that. You can just see there's just no sellers here, and there are just no buyers here. So price tends to just fill those liquidity pockets. This will almost always only work in high volatility. In times of low volatility like this, it's very difficult actually. Just remember, this is a typically a heavy volatility play. If I haven't said that like 10 times already, looking at it like this, you don't even really know where price is going to go. You want to wait till that happens and then see if sellers come through, and if they don't, that's what happens. That's going to do it for today's video. I hope that this was helpful for you guys with the alpha drop of ease of movement, and yeah, happy trading.